Although globalization is inevitable and desired for peace on Earth, in an effort to begin the elimination of poverty, THumP began in concentrating its efforts primarily in the United States of America. The group of humans separated as the citizens of the United States of America has wielded more influence, power, and control over world events, both socially and economically, than any other group of humans in the recorded history of Earth. The influence and control of the United States has been unprecedented. It is fair and just to proclaim that without the United States' protection and its intervention in past and current foreign matters, which include the despotic efforts by a few to rule the many, the world would have developed much differently than it has. But this development has exacerbated and increased poverty. Just as important, the United States has caused, causes, and will continue to cause negative effects, economically, socially, and environmentally, on the world if its power and control is left unchecked and controlled by the few, in spite of the current needs of the many. The Humanity Party, THumP, exists to do whatever is humanly possible to establish peace and equal and equitable liberty and justice for all humans upon Earth. As such, THumP dedicated the 4 years between 2016 and 2020 to making a final attempt to incorporate THumP's desire, platform, and ideals into the United States political system through its current election process. Much of the following platform reflects THumP's final effort, an attempt to persuade and inspire the people of the United States to consider its proposals during the 2020 election. THumP failed to accomplish this end and has turned its efforts to focus on worldwide solutions. Nonetheless, the following political platform properly outlines the overall goals and intent of the Humanity Party. The Humanity Party bases its political platform upon three main principles. These principles ensure the establishment of the only government that can and will serve the people properly and protect their freedom. The most important aspect of these principles is to provide a blueprint for the establishment of laws that support equality for all people. A Congress elected by the voice of the people shall use these three main principles as a guide in writing a new constitution that establishes particular inalienable rights equally applied to all people. After the establishment of a new constitution, Congress shall then establish sub-laws and sub-principles, which are set forth to assure the adherence to these three main principles. Government exists for the benefit of the people. The first principle is that this government shall never be self-serving, or in other words, it shall never act in and of itself and of its own accord for the sake of its own existence. The Constitution must be written to such form as to restrict the government to ensure that it abides by this first principle and law. A government should only exist to serve those who benefit from its existence, and those who benefit from its existence are those who give it its power and authority, the people. Government exists to protect individual free will. The second principle is that this government will guarantee the freedom or the free agency of all those whom it serves. And this free agency that it guarantees should restrict those whom it serves from infringing on the free agency of another, or from having another infringe upon the free agency of those whom it serves. Government should not be allowed to infringe upon the individual free agency of the people whom it serves, except in defending the free agency of another from being violated. Government exists to support and protect life. The third principle of government is that it shall provide the means whereby those whom it serves may have an equal opportunity to experience the happiness each person desires, as long as that desire is consistent with the second principle of government regarding personal free agency. Because it was not an individual's free will choice to exist, government must be compelled to provide those things that are necessary to live. Each person should be guaranteed the opportunity to fulfill the measure and purpose of their involuntary creation, which purpose is their individual happiness in conjunction with the second principle. Although government should provide the means whereby the people are supported in life, it cannot compel them to use those things that it provides for them. If government were to compel them in any of these things, then it would break the second principle by which it is established. Upon these three main principles, the Humanity Party intends to accomplish the following: End worldwide poverty and slavery. The world has changed over time. No longer can a person hunt for or gather food in a free land. Someone owns all the land upon earth. The land is owned and controlled by a few. Therefore, the majority is dependent upon the few and compelled to purchase the basic necessities of life from these few. Money is the system of exchange and purchase that the world has established by law. Poverty exists because the majority does not have enough money to pay for their basic necessities of life. The Humanity Party proposes providing electronically restricted human cards to all people upon Earth to allow them to purchase the basic necessities of life. Upon having the funds to purchase these things, the demand for these things will rise exponentially. The supply of these things will naturally follow through the established free market economic system. Supplying the needs of the demand will create jobs and employment opportunities that did not exist before the demand was created. Support personal ownership of property through the free market. The Humanity Party supports the legal ownership of property, where property is defined as personal possession, belongings, material goods, assets, or real estate. It does not support the redistribution or communal ownership of property that in times past has been associated with communism. Property ownership motivates a person to care for and oversee that property for the sake of individual happiness, whereas the responsibility of property ownership cannot be forced upon a person. Those who choose to take the responsibility for property should be able to benefit therefrom. The personal ownership of property has led to technological and innovative advances that have greatly benefited the human race, allowing more people the ability to live more securely and able to pursue their individual form of happiness. The free market system of economics is directly associated with this increase in the support of human life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This system should be protected and supported. However, since humans are now born into a world where all property upon earth is already owned, therefore without the opportunity to gain property without paying another for this property, all newly born people should be provided with the basic necessities of life outside of the economic system upon which they become involuntarily dependent. If not, those born without property will become indentured to or slaves to those who have property. Control the government for the sake and need of the people by a new constitution. The Humanity Party supports law and order. A legally elected legislative branch of government creates laws outside of those defined by a constitution. The judicial branch interprets and enforces these laws. The executive branch protects and enforces the Constitution and controls the military powers that protect government. The current constitutions that give governments their power are extremely flawed and must be reformed to serve the people and not the government. Courts and attorneys are out of control, setting prices for justice that are unaffordable by the majority. Lifelong politicians, judges, and executives become corrupt and self-serving. The tenure of anyone given power in government should be controlled and limited by the people. This can only be done by the proper outline established in a constitution. The Humanity Party's constitutional proposals provide specific laws that control the government, especially the courts and the attorneys that profit from the courts. New constitutional specifics should limit and reduce taxation on the people, including on the wealthy who own most of the property. Issuing currency and regulating it in a way to reduce and restrict the burden placed on the people should be a right and power retained by a proper government. Whereas all people desire wealth and property through financial independence, taxation on wealth is a burden placed on an economic disposition of which the people desire to become. A new one-world government and constitution. Most countries of the world consist of human beings from all ethnic backgrounds and cultures. Immigration throughout Earth has created a melting pot of humanity. Few nations exist independently restricted to one ethnicity or culture. All nations of Earth have become economically dependent on each other. Advances in technology and transport have created an economic situation where one nation cannot remain economically sovereign. When a separate sovereign government creates trade laws, establishes tariffs and fees, and in other ways attempts to control international markets for its own sake, all other nations suffer from these selfish controls. It is time for the people of Earth to consider a one-world government that derives its powers from just one constitution. Wars would stop because a one-world government would not be forced to defend itself against another government. The threat of nuclear war would all but disappear. Economic prosperity and equal opportunity for all people would flourish and be controlled by the people who elect this government. The Humanity Party exists for the sake of all of humanity upon planet Earth. Without its solutions, the world will continue on a slippery slope to terrorism, unrest, wars, and human suffering. We must admit our mistakes. We must realize that we created the problems that we are experiencing. And if we created them, we can also solve them. But nothing will be solved until we unite as one people, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Humanity Party is the only movement that has ever existed that has proposed the things incorporated into this platform. The Humanity Party has the solutions. No one else does.